Welcome, guys. So you guys, you've been part of Scripts and Bars in different capacities. It's good to see you back. The student has risen to the level of the master, has he? Oh, I like the confidence in that. I like that, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about where the money is for Zim creatives. And I think that's something that's near and dear to Musekiwa's heart. Musekiwa, do you mind talking about your history as a creative? And I'm talking about your work as an author and how you've translated that into a case study that you used to share with the Scripts and Bars cohort, just to empower them in terms of how they can gain monetary value.
I think, so thanks Eugene for that. I think my background, I love writing. I sort of, from a very young age, loved writing and enjoyed it. And started off writing poetry, thinking to myself, this is what my career is going to be like. And I was a teen then. But over the years, you sort of learn and you realize that the Zimbabwean economy and the world economy doesn't just feed your dreams, but you actually have to understand that someone else is going to have to pay for them. And so my journey as an author has been one where you realize that no matter what I produce, no matter what kind of content I produce, there has to be a market. There has to be someone willing to pay and exchange my knowledge for their money. And so I think as an author, one of the things that has happened is learning different types of business models. It's not always about producing a book to sell large numbers, to sell thousands or 10,000. Some books do that. Other books are better placed in certain contexts where you create speaking opportunities, you create networking opportunities that open up other sort of business spaces. So one of the things I've appreciated as an author is understanding what your content, or how to deliver your content, how to package it, and how to convey it to get the result you want. So that's...
Wow.
Yeah.
Musekiwa, this is so cool. You talked about packaging yourself, and one thing that I know you're very big on is pitching and introductions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what is the value of the basic introduction? This is coming hot off your bio that I just read out.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that lending you work and value and absolutely making you seem off-putting or tacky?
It's communicating. I think one thing with pitching is I think the word underlying it is sales. Is you're presenting yourself as someone who's able to do something. You're presenting yourself as someone who has a particular competence. And the best way to do that is to convey it with the right language. And so you may find I'm not on so many social media platforms. My specialty is LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, you have to communicate and speak the language, so to speak. Speak the Greek, speak the French.
Yeah.
And then not overdo it at the same time. So there's some sort of balance to that.
Yeah. Kuda, Max, how do you feel about the same thing? What are your comments on the same?
I was just laughing because this is exactly what I wanted to say. Basically, when it comes to our topic, where's the money for Zim creatives? I would say it's basically speaking their language. Like he said, someone else is going to fund whatever you want to do. So you need to pitch or present whatever you want to do in a way that they will understand, right? So it's very important to be able to communicate what you want to do and also understand the kind of people you're going to be dealing with, right? So, for example, if you want funding from a lot of corporates, we're talking about people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, people who grew up back then and who are not as well versed in technology like we are. So you can't go to a corporate and you're like, yo, I want to make a short film that's 3D animated. I'm going to use Blender. And the moment you start saying all of that, you've lost them. So in as much as you might be good or you've got a brilliant idea, if you fail to communicate it, you won't get anywhere. Yeah,
and you've got a lot of background, transforming from just a hobbyist animator to being a service provider with clients.
Yeah.
How did you manage that move?
So what a lot of people don't know about us is we started off doing digital marketing. We were being subcontracted by an agency. Right?
Wow, okay.
So the reason we did that is I wanted to learn how the industry works. Right? I was a young animator. I want to learn what the money is, how does it work. So we were working with an agency. So because we made them special basically, they would go with me to meetings or go into boardrooms and understand, okay, clients want this. This is the kind of language they want to hear. You know, they're big on stuff like return on investment. They want their figures broken down like this.
Yeah.
So once I had sufficient knowledge, we then branched off and started doing things by ourselves because we already knew what people look for. We knew what people want to hear, and we just focused on giving it to them.
Amazing. Musekiwa, what would you say are general best practices given this environment that we're in? Best practices for creatives who want to, you know, come up with some workable value proposition, you know?
That's a good question. I think the word, it's a word that's often used and abused a lot. The word value. And I think whenever we create content, whenever we aspire to deliver or tell a story, I like telling stories. Whenever we aspire to deliver a story in whatever form it comes in, the idea is that how do we connect with the other person? And a lot of times I think what we've been talking about is really making the human connection in whatever we do. And that's where the money is. The money is in people's pockets. It's not necessarily stuck in a bank somewhere, it's stuck in people's pockets. So our goal always in sort of like working towards delivering anything is that, I guess in many ways you look at it and it's a weird word to use, value. And I'll break it down very quickly into three things. Sure. First of all, when you create content, there's always a principle you're applying. So I call it 3-tier value. There's always a principle. You're making music, you're using chords. You're writing a story, you're using a 3-act structure. That process should never be taken for granted. So there's the creative aspect to it, but there's also the technical awareness of what you're doing. And once you understand that, then it's always important to get into the second level of value, which is process. Committing to generating consistently. Someone else was talking about consistency. Generating that level of quality consistently. And ultimately, then the third level of value is the transaction, the exchange. So those 3 levels of value are always important when you're deciding to create something. Do you understand that ultimately you're going to get to the point of exchange and you're going to put a dollar note to what you've made? And is it worth what you've conveyed? Has it applied the right principles? Has it been taken through a very rigorous process to generate quality? And ultimately, is it worth the amount that someone's going to pay for?
Wow, that's incredible. I think it kind of relates to something that we often talk about, which are fundamentals, right? You can't rush off to talk about signing mega deals before you have a basic bank account, you know? And one guy I know who's very big on compliance, even though he's an animator, is Kuda Max. Kuda, do you want to talk about some of the realizations that you had on your journey to becoming like a compliant business person outside of the creative stuff?
Yeah, so it goes back to what I was saying earlier. We shouldn't take things for granted, right? We are all basically, I'm assuming everyone in here is a creative in some sort, right? We've got language that makes sense to us. And we want to run creative businesses. The business aspect still stands, right? So you're good at creating content. You want to get payment. Do you have a bank account? Those are things they're going to look at. Do you have tax clearance? Are you registered with PRAS? All of that, it sounds like it's not important and all, but those are the things that businesses will look at. There's a deal we had literally last week. We were at a business thingy, right? And we met these guys, and they're like, "Oh, you guys do videos. Do you guys have tax clearance?" And we said, "Yes." "Do you have this? Yeah." So they're like, "Okay, cool. We're gonna give you the job," because they're used to working with creatives where, after they've seen the quality of work, which is nice, now they want to do the payment and all of that. They don't have bank accounts, they don't have this. And what a lot of creatives don't understand is a lot of corporations have different departments who have strict rules they must follow. So the finance guys, before they make a payment, they have to make it to someone who has tax clearance.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if the marketing people love you and whatever you've done is good. If you don't have tax clearance, the finance guys can't pay you. Are you registered with certain bodies and all of that? So, and if you look at it, it's really stuff that wouldn't take you a lot of time to do, to register for your tax clearance, for your prize, and just have all your paperwork in order, so you can just make yourself easy to work with.
Would you recommend that kind of approach even with content creators making stuff on the internet? I mean, I see influencers now working together with brands like Oreo or Fanta and so on. And I know when you're working with brands from abroad, you'll be like, tax for who, Simra will never catch me. Would you recommend the same approach for the guys who are warming up to doing, being influencers as a career path?
I would say just keep it safe, do the right thing from the start. I think she said it, you just put good systems so that when you keep growing, it's already in you. So yeah, just do the right thing from the start.
All right.
So in essence, you're ultimately going to pay tax anywhere you go, outside of having an offshore, sort of like an offshore account somewhere in the Caymans. Any other country, so if you're on Amazon, you're going to pay tax in America. You're going to pay tax in the UK. So always being compliant ensures you get what you deserve.
Awesome. I think this is a great opportunity to take some questions. Trevor, you around? Trevor. That's fine. Like Thanos, I'll have to do this myself.
My question is on the pricing. Obviously, getting clients. How do you come up with a charge for a specific project?
Okay, so when it comes to pricing, the first thing you can do, obviously, is see what everyone else is charging. Just have like a baseline. This is something I'm always fighting with a lot of animators, where you will see someone charging $5 for like a 10-minute thing. Like, you can't do that. So find out what everyone else is doing, so you get like a feel of where the baseline is, right? Then your typical business things, what raw materials are you putting in? What's your cost of production and stuff like that? And then you can see what kind of profit margins you can put in. But yeah, see what everyone else is making, and then it's up to you to decide to undercut or to charge extra, and I hope that makes sense.
Great. I've got time for just half a question. Okay, it didn't work this time. You got another question? It's your lucky day.
In terms of marketing, how are you doing it? Like, how are you getting your name out there as an animator as well? Yeah.
So with marketing, there are so many ways to do marketing, right? There's social media, mouth to mouth, flyer. There's so much you can do. So what has worked for us, and they say it's like the basic type of marketing is do a good job, right? Do whatever you're gonna do a good job, and people recommend. We work with a lot of corporates, and their competition is watching. So you do a video, they'll be like, oh, this is good. Who did this for you? Like, next thing you know, they're in your DMs. Hey, we saw what you did for this. So that works. And also, don't neglect your social media. Like, social media is powerful, and with sponsored ads, you can get a lot of mileage for as little as $10. So social media marketing, mouth to mouth, and of course, what's most important is know your audience, right? We go for corporate, we go for companies, we hardly do business with SMEs because they may not be able to afford our animation. So we specifically go for the people. We specifically focus on the people who are able to pay for our things. So that's why you might not actually see a KK Universe advert just going on Instagram and stuff. But the people who we want, they know we exist. So yeah, I hope that helps as well.
All right, here come the questions. We got a question up front. It's from the Mukudze guy.
Nice. So I recall once upon a time there was a conversation in the Animation Zimbabwe group. By the way, there is an Animation Zimbabwe group, so around pitching, because that's basically where the idea comes from. What you have in mind and how to convert it into money, because I think that's actually one of the biggest problems that a lot of creatives have. Here's this good thing that I can do. How do I convince that guy to give me money? So I think it's not really just an animation thing. So maybe if you want to take that, how do you structure your documents? How do you know what the client wants, and how do you approach a specific client? Yeah. Asking for a friend.
So I mean, I guess it's a good question. I've been involved in pitches both in creative and outside of creative. And what makes a pitch very interesting is it's a combination of factors. Number one of the most important things would be understanding their pain points, being very clear on what they're going through and what they need. And then importantly, the second thing that comes in is your solution. How are you intending to solve their particular problem? So whatever they need video, they need whatever. How are you intending to solve that? And then in between all of that comes the finer details of how much is it going to cost, what does it translate to? I think you used the phrase return on investment. What does it translate to in the long term? And then in some spaces, like business spaces, importantly, what comes in a fourth thing would be what's called a business case. Being able to defend what you're offering in a larger context, that look, if you guys do this with me, in essence, that's what a business case is about. If you do this with me, this is what it'll do to your competition, this is what it'll do to the market, this is what it'll do to the industry. So when you bring it back to a creative space, the same principles may need to be applied, even though in some cases you're not addressing a problem, you're actually creating or presenting an opportunity. I've got this great story, I've got this great film, I've got this great animation, this great song, and you're presenting it as an opportunity. And in many ways trying to connect with them so that they engage with it at that level and then make the exchange and change the market. Because you make them believe that they want to change the market.
So in a way, you could say pushing creatives to be proactive.
Yes, exactly. So I think he's saying here that I think one of the key goals is being proactive, yes. Because when you're reactive, you are assuming people know about you. You're making the assumption that you're of some value, which may not be the case. But when you are proactive, you realize how much value you do have. And pitching is always a good test, because you go in and you assume that, hey, I'm high value, and the guys actually tell you, actually, no, you're this value, you're down here. And so you either decide to negate that or learn to grow to the value that you're assuming. And so pitching always helps you understand and measure where you're at.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to allow Moose to say final words of wisdom, because he always has these. Trust me, as Scripts and Bars people don't get enough of this guy.
So I think I was going to share, just thinking about it, even for creatives, one of the most important things is going to be strategy, is deciding how you're going to take the market. You're in a space that's very competitive, that's undermined, underrepresented, disrespected. And so for you to be known, for you to be appreciated, is going to require a lot more aggression and intent. And so one of the things I'll say and recommend is that think more strategically about what you have to offer. It's not just about the creative content itself. It's actually how it aligns to what everyone else is consuming or what they want to consume.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been talking to Musekiwa, Samuriwo, and Kuda Maxwell. Let's give them a round of applause.